and a very warm welcome to the United Debate Show. Well, it was the late show on Saturday evening as Nemanja Vidic spared the Reds' blushes with a last-gasp winner against Sunderland. We'll be talking about that, plus looking ahead to the midweek clash with Aalborg and Saturday's trip to Spurs. I'm Alistair Mann, and I'm delighted to have alongside me 1968 European Cup winner David Sadler and journalist David Meek. Well, gents, you're very welcome to the show. I mean, we'll start with Saturday's events, and they say it's a 90-minute game, and that's very much what United needed, wasn't it?
They certainly did. I mean, it's not an uncommon thing at Old Trafford for us to score late goals, and it doesn't really matter, I guess, when you score them. I'm sure the fans and most of us would prefer it to be in the first couple of minutes rather than the last couple. Particularly in the sort of situation we were in. We knew we were behind again, if you like, playing the late game. And it was a game, not must-win game, but, if we're going to stay in there, we have to win.
I think it's always been a United way. I think all the top sides, that they do keep going to the end. They do keep believing that there's a winning goal to be had.
Sure, and I don't think the managers would have it any other way, because if a team thinks it's a lost cause and it's noticeable that they're kind of easing up because, well, it's not our day-to-day kind of attitude, well, I don't think they would be in the team the next week. So the whole ethos now is to play till the final whistle. I mean, in those sort of circumstances, if you try to be a little bit neutral, you've got to feel sympathy for the team that loses out, particularly a team in Sunderland's position had been up against the ropes, just lost the manager, and looking as if they were going to get a respectable point, which could be used as a sort of a launch pad for better times. And it must be very cruel. It must be very, very tough for them. But having said that, we're not Sunderland fans, so
we'll only have that little bit of sympathy for a minute or two. Of course, I mean, in the modern game, I mean, people know what's coming. I mean, it's 90 minutes plus.
Yes.
I mean, there was a time, of course, when you didn't really know. It was at somebody else's sort of guesswork, really, what there was going to be. But now, quite often there's 4 and 5 minutes, which is a substantial part of a game. So.
Yeah, I mean, I often hear the debate, that the teams at the top seem to get those winners in the last minute. I don't think that's a fluke. I think that says a great deal about their mentality, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. And I don't think, particularly in this instance, United need apologise to anybody.
Absolutely.
Because they dominated the game. I'm told that it was something like nearly 30 strikes at goal, compared with about 1 by Sunderland.
Can't remember the one.
Wasn't there a flurry near the end?
Maybe there was. But I don't think it is.
No.
Yeah, it happens too often,
No.
Ali. The top sides, they do keep going. You can. I'm sure there are facts and figures that will prove that. It just happens too often.
I remember. I think it was the first year United won the Premier League, as it was. I remember, was it Steve Bruce scoring a late goal? I mean, it's an important psychological factor that when that board goes up, that teams can either come alive and think, we've got to win it now, or they just think, oh, well, that game's gone. And I think the top sides don't think
you could see the relief. Obviously, I mean, that's stating the obvious, I know, but I mean, you could see the relief. I mean, they've been battering away all day. Very often we have that sort of performance at Old Trafford, that sort of defensive performance. I think there have been more goalkeepers won Man of the Match awards.
Visiting,
they're always visiting goalkeepers at Old Trafford. So, and you could see the relief, and obviously it meant a great deal to get that goal.
I don't think it's a surprise when teams come to Old Trafford and do that. I mean, I think you just expect it. And more often than not, to be fair to United, they get 1 or 2 up, and then by half-time, and then they can relax in the second half. So it's not an unusual challenge for United, is it?
No, it isn't. But, I mean, I was sitting, I didn't sit in the press box, and I sat more or less level with this Old Stretford end goal. And it was most remarkable, because they always say in those situations, play it wide, get round the back and put the ball in. And I was in line with their back line, and whenever they would sort of had gone back and had lost the ball, it was just a solid row of Sunderland shirts, and when the ball came over, it was odds on that a Sunderland defender And they played well. You know, they didn't panic, did they? They stuck at it. But they're so outnumbered, the forwards, that well, I suppose that's why the manager put Vidic up for the last few minutes.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned that they were without a manager. Roy Keane, of course, going a few days before the match. Were you shocked by that?
I was. I was sort of taken aback. I mean, and having read the press sort of since then, there is a very mixed. They weren't shocked, and I wasn't shocked, etc. There was it's a very 50-50 thing. But I just didn't think he was in that state, if you like, where he was going to go. I mean, trying to analyse it since, it does make some sense. You know, if he felt that he wasn't getting a response from the players, which I guess was probably the main reason why, then to go when he did, which is just prior to a spending spree coming up, it does at least give Sunderland a bit of time to get somebody in, and that somebody perhaps will be able to go into the market, which, you know, they're in dire trouble, of course, down the bottom.
I mean, you've obviously interviewed Roy Keane many years at United. I guess it must be hard when you're always associated with winning causes and winning being very much your second nature. It must be very hard to suddenly, I mean, let's be honest, Sunderland were winners. They got straight through the Championship. They did pretty well last season.
Sure.
I guess it must be really hard to make that adjustment to a mentality where you're not going to be winning very often.
Yeah, I think you're right. But the interesting little sort of useless information is that apparently 5 of their staff, coaching and management staff, had all worked for Manchester United at some stage.
Because Ricky Sprague took over as well.
Yeah, and Dwight York, of course. And even down to the fitness coach, Michael Clegg, is there. And Bill Bezic, the psychological advisor, he had a spell at United, he's there.
Yes.
So, you know, we've got a late at United.
I mean, I think that you touched on the winning thing, and I mean, that fits in with the fact that Roy sort of went straight into the job. Virtually no break from being a player. He went straight in. And, of course, he had the success. He got the club. I mean, there was a terrific target then to get out of the Championship. And, of course, they did that. The next season, the target is survival. So, you know, even sort of points at you know, that you get in that's success. A little bit more expected, I guess, this season. And I guess as well, he's brought in some, you know, more players during the summer. And if he's just not getting that response, then I shouldn't be too surprised, although, as I say, I was. Yeah,
well, I think there's stuff emerging now that throws a little bit more light on it. Because from the outside, no, I didn't think it would come at this stage. I mean, if they continue to struggle, yes. But I didn't think it was, you know, ready for that, because he seems to have got good backing from Niall Quinn and the chairman and everybody. So in that sense, it was a surprise. But the stuff that's coming out now about how in the last week or so he wasn't even going to training. Well, if there's a crisis, I'm a bit surprised about that. I would have thought that, and I know it doesn't do any good if the manager goes and starts jumping up and down all the time. But I'd have thought that the manager must identify to a certain extent
I'm sure
with the players, and for him just to stay away, I thought was weird.
And of course, it then formed a number of questions for Sir Alex's press conference ahead of the match, didn't it? Where he was almost forced to, you know, understandably, journalists wanted to know what he thought of what that says about Roy Keane, and I think it was quite interesting about his thoughts about Roy Keane.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, he knows him better than, well, just about anybody, I suspect. So, you know, he really will have an insight into that. I mean, it made, you know, it was always going to be an interesting game, Sunderland. With Roy in charge, it was going to be, you know, a fascinating game, because if you can forget what went on last week, and you start out the other debate of the next manager, then, you know, we might have been going to the game saying, well, you know, Roy is perhaps one of the favourites for that.
Well, yes.
No talk of that at the moment. But, I mean, the other thing, of course, I start to think of, and certainly I start to think of as a player, is that when that happens, manager goes, what do you get? You get a reaction.
Yes.
And, you know, I was expecting that sort of reaction.
Yes.
As it happened, I mean, they did put in a very spirited defensive performance, so they can be proud of that.
Yes, they did. And, of course, another interesting incident was Cristiano Ronaldo. I can't remember a player kicking a ball out and going straight down the tunnel like that for a long time, but I guess a player knows when he can't go on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Cristiano's always been a bit different in the way he plays and everything, and he was a little bit different with his reaction to that. But I mean, I'm not critical of him.
No, I think if you know you're hurt, you know you're hurt, don't you?
And he tried to carry on, didn't he? Because it was a couple of minutes or so after the initial impact.
Right,
tried to, I suppose, in the old phrase, run it off, and it obviously wouldn't. But he seemed to be struggling a little bit when he.
Was it sort of a bruised rib? It looked like a sort of as he hit the shot a couple of minutes earlier, like a sort of a collision with the rib cage.
He's got a really nasty knock on it. I mean, I've got to say, I'm a little bit surprised that there hasn't been a bit of a hoo-ha over it. I thought there might well be, because, I mean, the procedure is you come off where the guy's coming on.
Yes.
Which, I mean, that didn't happen. Whether there was a little breakdown in communication,
but surely if you feel your reliability, if you feel even if you're just sort of filling a hole on the left wing or the right wing and waiting for a ball to come, if you can't move, is it, you know, break with etiquette?
Yeah, well, I did notice that he hesitated by the touch line before he actually stepped over the line, as if sort of token observance of the fact that you're not supposed to leave the pitch without the referee's permission, are you?
Yeah, no.
So he did sort of try to stay within the laws of the game in that way, but it was still a very Ronaldo-type exit.
And, of course, Alex in the stand as well, so he's then got the old communication thing and the phone.
Yeah, and the stuff, the pictures that came back from that looked a bit,
of a pantomime in the end.
A little bit, yeah.
OK, gents, we'll have to leave it there for the moment. That's the end of part one. Plenty more to discuss, including the Champions League game against Aalborg and the visit to Spurs. So join us in a couple of minutes. Welcome back to part two of the United Debate Show. 1968 European Cup winner David Sadler and United journalist David Meek in the studio. We were just talking about Ronaldo and going off injured, but it was a contrast to sort of 24 hours later when he won or received the Ballon d'Or, the ultimate football accolade, and that was he was very proud to win it, wasn't he?
Yes, I think. I don't think in this country we quite rate the Ballon d'Or as highly as we should.
We don't win it enough, that's why.
Well, it is rather a long time since your teammates did actually come up with it, and there's a few years gone by since then, hasn't there?
That's what we need to remind people of the prestige of the honour.
Yeah, but I think as far as players nowadays, and, well, football generally, it's ranked a lot higher, and Cristiano went to Paris with Sir Alex Ferguson yesterday for the presentation. And I had to speak to the manager this morning, and he was saying that how lovely Cristiano was, because all his family were there, his mother, his brothers and sister and cousins and all that, and they were all there. And he said he was absolutely brilliant with his mother, never left her side, and was really the dutiful son. Because, I mean, because of the success he's had and all the awards and everything, you wonder whether he's going to run away with the celebrity type cult. Yeah, sure. But the evidence from his presentation, at least when his mum's there, his feet are still solidly on the ground.
Right. Heartening to hear it is too, that the world superstar should be that way.
Yeah.
I mean, family does play a huge part in a footballer's life. I mean, you know, the adjustment that he had to make, and of course he had to go back for the tragic events that his family befell during that period. And he's clearly he puts family first, doesn't he?
Yeah. I wonder whether that's one of the reasons why he entertained Real Madrid, because it's a little bit nearer his roots, isn't it?
Don't let's start going down Real Madrid. Let's concentrate on winning the award.
Done and dusted.
Done and dusted at the moment, yes. Yeah. I mean, it's a fantastic achievement for the lad.
It is.
What is he, 22, 23 or something? To win that is wonderful. And I mean, if you just look at the United lads, I mean, Dennis, Bobby and George in the 60s, I mean, and then for all that period now we've got one, so fantastic.
But it does bring us back to European football, which takes us to Aalborg. So we'll get away from Real Madrid. And do you look at that? Obviously, United are through, and we know that. And Aalborg know they're in the UEFA Cup, and therefore it's not, I dare say the word, an academic game, but it's a game which, if United have aspirations to win the group, that they'll want to win, won't they?
Yeah, they will. We want to win the group. I mean, it does just sort of divide one or two things out. No, we want to win the group, so we want to win the match on Wednesday.
Does that make such significance to winning the group you speak to?
Yeah, I get that impression that he's not just paying lip service to it. He wants to win the group. I think there are advantages that you mention of when they make the draw for the. But I think also it sends out the right message. For the opposition that here's a team that mean business. And if they can... Because, I mean, Villarreal are not regarded as one of the power sides of Europe, and you can just imagine opposition team talks if Villarreal top the group. Well, you're only playing Manchester United. They're not as good as Villarreal.
Sure.
You've got a decent chance, so get cracking, lads. I could imagine that would figure as part of the motivation. But if they're top of the group, well, they're top of the group, and it commands respect from whoever they're going to play next.
I remember this debate a few years ago, and United topped the group, ended up playing Porto, who were runners-up in another group, and of course Porto were this emerging side under Jose Mourinho. And it's an interesting debate because I can't imagine that if you're runners-up in a group you're going to be that much weaker, but it is the psychological message of being top, isn't it?
Psychological. Yeah. No, I mean there are no weak sides that are going to go through. I mean, we're going to meet one of those. I mean, but there won't be a weak side in it. So you're quite right to point out the Porto situation. But no, I'm comfortable with it. I'm sure we'll go out on Wednesday with the intent of winning that match because we will top the group.
We've got the advantage, haven't we? Because I think we've got a goal difference, two-goal better. Yeah. So if both matches draw, we'd be okay. And I think Villarreal have got a tough one playing Celtic in Glasgow.
Yes.
Well, we beat Aalborg 3-0 away, so it's not impossible to expect another win.
Do you anticipate, with Spurs in mind, at the weekend there'll be one or two who he might give an opportunity to, rather than necessarily the 11-0 show at White Hart Lane? Yeah,
I think so. I think he'll take the opportunity. I mean, European experience is a little different to Carling Cup experience. Great nights, generally speaking, European nights. They just have that bit extra. So I think he'll take that opportunity. I mean, we don't know, as we're sat here, just what sort of niggles and injuries. There's bound to be some of those, and he'll want to protect those for the weekend and for coming matches. So I think he'll make one or two changes. I'm sure he'll make one or two of the young lads.
And it is a significant fixture, the Spurs game, let's be honest about it. Because after that, United have a break from the Premier League, don't they?
With going to Japan, yeah.
I mean, we're going to fall points behind, not because we've lost, but because we're going to get another game behind while we go to Japan. So Tottenham, because of that, Tottenham takes on. It was an important game anyway. It takes on, if you like, that much more significance because we can't afford to go, and lose points at Tottenham.
Games in hand is always, is it good, is it bad, is it indifferent? Where do you stand? I mean, because United, if they progress in the Carling Cup, which of course seems a likelihood, I mean, let's not disrespect Derby, but you would feel over two legs United will get that'll be another game where they won't be playing Premier League football, and they've got to start fitting those games in somewhere with Fulham and Wigan banking up.
Because I think they'd hoped to do one of the Fulham game, for instance, in that Carling Cup semi-final week.
Yeah,
but there's two nights gone with that, so it's pushing them.
I mean, there are the matches they're going to be behind. Fulham, I think, Wigan, because of the Japan situation. Now, obviously, both at home. Now, in a normal world, shall we say, you would expect to get maximum points playing those two particular teams at home. But as we've seen only very recently by Sunderland, who came within seconds of getting a draw, that it's no given conclusion that is the. And the problem's going to be, I think, that because of these matches, that we are going to have to play these matches rolled on and in a comparatively short period. Rangers experienced it in Scotland last year. Now, I don't think we'll get to that. I hope we don't.
No.
But it is a possible problem we've got.
We were having this debate before, though.
Yeah.
It's always best for a club of United stature, surely, to have a heap of games to play rather than to be out early and not have those games to play.
Absolutely. And the manager, to be fair, has tailored a squad
Yep.
to cope with that. Because it's not only strong in quality, it's strong in depth.
Yes, in numbers, yeah. That's
So
right.
he would be silly, going back to the old ball game, not to utilise.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think David's spot on when he says that there'll be some of the younger players. I was going to say and include Rafael da Silva, but he seems to have he might be left out to rest him for Spurs, because he seems to have forced his way in.
Yes, I mean, let's be honest about it. We've got a situation now where United are in everything. Obviously, the FA Cup's not even started. They've got a squad which you've described as being having the strength. It's a good thing, isn't it? To be going off to Japan and making a statement to the world that this is one of the biggest clubs, if not the biggest in the world, and you know, wherever
I just have. I mean, the Japan thing. I know exactly where you're coming from. I just have, you know, it's a commitment that's made. You know, you win the Champions League. I just wish it wasn't there. You know,
or they could play it at the end of the season.
Yeah, or at some other better suited time, shall we say? I mean. But at the end of it all, the fact is we want to be there. We want to win all these matches. We'll go to Japan. We want to win that, and so on. And that's the ethic that goes through the club.
David, you speak to Sir Alex. You get his programme notes. I mean, how does he view Japan and the whole FIFA experience that they're going to embark upon?
He's genuinely keen to take part and keen to win it. I don't think he's just going through the motions with it. I think he reckons that it's the prestige, really, and the standing of Manchester United in world football. FIFA had a press conference a short while ago to sort of launch it, and I took the opportunity to ask the FIFA representative who was doing the presentation. I said, why this time of the year? You know, why not maybe at the end of the season or something? Anyway, he patiently explained to me that they'd been into all this and there was just no other time that suits everybody. So it's one of those things you either say, well, we're not going to take it seriously, or we get stuck in and we do it. And it seems to me that the manager is the latter, that he wants to win it because he thinks it's good for Manchester United.
A perfect place to stop. Thank you very much. We could be talking all night. Thank you for your time. To the two Davids, thank you for your company. Hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be back same time next week. Until then, it's goodbye.